Well, today we're going to take a look at the last portion of this chapter, which deals with strategy. Strategy is being able to put into place all those things that you need to reach your objective. Most people don't plan to fail, but oftentimes they do because they don't map out the direction they want to go in and to put together all the pieces that's needed for them to reach their objectives. So today we're going to take a look at some of those elements, what goes in it, as we take a look at this final part of this chapter, which deals with strategy and strategic management. Okay, let's go ahead and finish up Chapter 13 today, Creating Vision and Strategic Direction. Now, yesterday we talked about the vision and the mission statement. What you should have in every mission statement and vision statement is what we call a leader's framework for noble purpose. Now, what's a noble purpose? A noble purpose is the ability to inspire people to a higher calling. For instance, your textbook talks about on page 410 where Mary Kay, their vision, their purpose is to enrich the lives of women. Walmart's mission is to give ordinary folks the chance to buy the same things as rich people. This is a way that we can inspire people to sacrifice, to give more, to motivate, to go beyond just the minimum effort required to do your job. But this is something that we want to instill in the worker, something that they can read, something that they can embrace, and give them that sense of nobility, that they are accomplishing something higher than just turning a profit for the company. Now you see here in Exhibit 13.7, part of that is discovery. And that's finding the new. It's something that leverages the entrepreneurial spirit or the pioneer spirit of the people. You see here Google, 3M, Samsung are good examples of discovery. In fact, if they're going to stay in business, they have to have that pioneer spirit to be able to come up with the next thing that consumers are going to want. Also, you have excellence, and that's being the best. Berkshire Hathaway, Allied Signal, Apple, these are all companies that sense and seek out fulfillment by being the best at what they do. Altruism, and that's providing service and happiness. Dollar General, Dannon Milk Products, which is the yogurt and all of that. It's having a regard for others and being able to help others and bring happiness. And then you have heroism, which is being effective or achieving your goals. And we see here Microsoft, Southwest Airlines, and ExxonMobil are just a few of the examples here that emulate that. So your mission should be more than just what you do. It should inspire people to higher goals, to achieve more than just getting a paycheck at the end of the week or the month. It should inspire them to go above and beyond so that the organization can go above and beyond and fill out a higher purpose in society. Now, strategic management. Today we have a whole course on strategic management, so I'll just give you a condensed version of it in this definition. It's the set of decisions and actions used to formulate and implement specific strategies that will achieve a competitively superior fit between the organization and its environment so as to achieve organizational goals. This is really, when you pare it down to its essence, you're looking at how a company can meet its strategic, operational objectives and goals given the environmental influences that are coming from the outside and those influences that are inside. So you're looking at the relationship between the organization and its environment, external and internal, to achieve organizational goals. Now, the next slide here is strategy. How do you get to those objectives? How do you reach success and so forth? Well, you've got to have a game plan. And the game plan is what we call today strategy. It's the general plan of action that describes resource allocation and other activities for dealing with the environment and helping the organization attain its goals. So this is the way that you're going to meet those objectives. And what I tell people, but the difference between where you're at and where you want to be, that gap is what we call a problem or an opportunity, however you want to look at it. So what you need to get you from where you are to where you want to be is that strategy. And it takes resource allocation, both physical and personnel. So it's the bringing together, gathering of these resources, putting them into place strategically to be able to make sure you reach your end goals. Now, developing an effective strategy. Well, your slide talks about several ways. Actively listen to people, both inside and outside the organization, and that's to be able to get an ear for not only what's in demand, but how things work. Examine trends and discontinuities in the environment that can be used to gain an edge. What is working, what's not working. Study past events and act based on the anticipated future, and that's what we call today forecasting. You can get a fairly good idea of where you are going to go and the success of that direction based on where you've been. So you can take a look at the past to help anticipate the future. And use hard analysis to help set a course for the future. And this is being able to use the benefits of forecasting, statistical analysis, interviews, primary, secondary data resources that you're going to learn in research methods. All of these things will help you set the course for the future and shift the strategy if needed. So the ability to change and alter is going to be necessary. Now, here's how I try to explain developing a strategy that will accomplish your goals. It's what's called the organizational cone. Now, it's not in your book, but I think it's important that you understand what this concept is all about. It's developed from the book Managing for the Future. It's Hersey Blanchard, and I'm not sure if it's their model or one that they've used, but let's see how this pans out. First of all, you have an idea, and I'm not the best artist in the world, but this is a light bulb. This light bulb goes off in your mind, and you have an idea of what you want to have happen in ministry. It may be what the Lord has laid on your heart, and this is the direction you want to go. In fact, the Bible says, without a vision, the people are in disarray. They'll perish. So it's important to seek out opportunities for the future. In business, it's the same way. You may not have a revelation from God, but your company, based on the trends and the environment and demand, you should be able to have an idea of where you want to take that organization. Well, it all starts with an idea. Now, the idea does nothing sitting in your head, so you've got to do some action here. So what we have to have, first of all, is what we call alignment. Alignment means that you are gathering people who are going to be on board with this idea. They're going to support you, and you're going to get the people, both inside and outside the organization, to not only hear what they have to say, but you also want to make sure that they support the direction in which you want to go. But also, you have to have attainment. And this marker may not be the best in the world, but attainment is having the resources, the physical resources, not the people resources, but the physical resources, such as plant and property, revenue, equipment, maybe. These are the hard physical things that you're going to have. Now, here's how it starts. First of all, I'm going to communicate my idea to some key people, and I'm going to get them on board. Now, my vision or my strategy is starting to take off. Now, let's say, for instance, I'm going up here to talk to people. Now, let's say, for instance, I've got a few people on board with it. The next thing I want to do is make sure that I can support through the physical resources what I'm trying to do. So I'll go down here and I will start gathering physical resources. Now, as I gather physical resources, I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to be talking to more people. And by now, I should have people already talking to other people, those influential individuals. So I'm gathering more alignment, and as I'm gathering more alignment, they're going to help me gather together more of the resources that I'm going to need to make this vision or this objective come true. And what I'm going to do throughout the whole thing is go up and down. I'm going to be alternating between alignment and attainment. Alignment and attainment. Now, if I'm going up and down, gathering both as I go along, what this is going to do is create momentum. And that momentum will create the energy needed to propel my idea from start to finish. And that's where we want to be. So you're constantly going from people to resources, people to resources. Now, one of the things here is to be able to shift strategy if needed. The reason why this is a cone is that it allows for deviation. You can alternate as you're getting alignment. People may have different ideas. They may offer better ways of doing it. So you can shift up and down this thing as you see fit. What you don't want to do is have people go completely out of the cone, because then you've got chaos and you've got everybody wanting to do their own thing. But if you can minimize and contain the vision and the strategy within the confines of the cone, they can be free to offer different ideas, but yet you're still in the cone itself. So this is how you get your strategy from the thought to the end. And it's an effective tool, and it's one that will help you tremendously if you decide to use it in the workplace. Now, here are some elements of strategy. First of all, you have core competency. And that's something the organization does extremely well in comparison to the competitors. This is what you want to create. Core competencies are things that you do, as the definition says, so well, and no one else can repeat it. No one else can duplicate it. And if you do it well enough, long enough, that becomes what we call here a competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is how companies outcompete other companies. It's because they are able to do things that the competitors aren't able to do. For instance, I used to sell $1,300 vacuum cleaners. Now, you may think that's crazy. How in the world does a vacuum cleaner get that expensive? Well, there are some very expensive vacuum cleaners out there, but this one was unique. This one, instead of using a bag as the collection for the dust and the debris, it used water. It had a basin of water at the bottom of the unit, and whenever the hose sucked in the dirt, it went straight to the water. Now, this was revolutionary because all other vacuum cleaners had a bag. Now, the problem with the bag, and I'm giving you, I guess, a little lesson on vacuum cleaners, the problem with the bag is that the bag has to be porous. If there were no tiny holes in that vacuum cleaner bag, once the air filled it up, it would explode. It would burst, just like taking a lunch bag and blowing it up, eventually it's going to pop. So in order for that vacuum cleaner bag to be able to maintain its state of being, there has to be little holes, which makes it porous. Well, once the dust starts to collect in that bag, the dust starts to cover those holes. And then after that, the vacuum cleaner no longer picks up dust. You can run over a spot 100 times. It's not going to pick up any more dust because the airflow that is going into the bag and outside these holes create the suction needed for that dirt to be picked up. Well, long story short, the only solution, at least until now, has been to use water. Water doesn't need a bag. It just has a basin. And when you have finished vacuuming the floor, you just empty the water out. And that was revolutionary. That gave them, or this company, a competitive advantage over all the other vacuum cleaners. And I have had people give me their brand new $900,000 Kirby's to buy one of the vacuum cleaners that I was selling. So to be able to use that gave them a competitive advantage, and that's what they used up until they had their copyright or their protection expires. So no one else could copy that because they were protected by copyright laws. Now, synergy is the way of bringing different people in, and they create individually something greater than the individual parts. In other words, the way the formula reads is 1 + 1 = 3. That means the individual efforts create something greater, or the sum is greater than the individual parts. So that's the value of bringing people together to collaborate and to do bigger and better things in an organization. And then value. That's a combination of benefits that are received and the cost paid by the customer. This is what the customer is looking for, value. They're not looking for the cheapest necessarily, but they do want value for what they are getting. Many people will pay an extra amount of money just so that they get a quality product and the value is there. So when you're competing, you have to realize that the company or the consumer is looking for value more than anything else, and you have to provide that. Now, strategy, formulation, and execution. The formulation is the integration or the integrating of knowledge of the environment, the vision, and the mission with the core competency in such a way as to attain synergy and create that value. So this is how you're going to do it. This is how we're going to create value for our product and pass it on to the consumer. This is the strategy that we're going to use. Strategy execution really is just putting it into place. This is how we're going to enact it. Now this slide just talks about tools for execution, create ongoing communication, and again, as you saw in that organizational cone, you always have to constantly be talking to people, getting their support, getting their advice and input. Teach the why. That means this is why we're doing it. That gives them that sense of purpose. Explain what this new thing means to each person. This is the benefit or this is the value of this. And tell what is not changing. And that's just a matter of what is stagnant and what you may need to focus on in that organization. Now the final slide we see here is Exhibit 13.8, and that's making strategic decisions. On this side you have the strategic impact, and up here you have ease of execution. As always, usually the best model is going to be high in strategic impact and easy to execute. So that's here. That's high impact, easy to execute. Simple changes that have high strategic impact, take action here first. Do little things that have a profound impact on the organization to build that momentum. and then you have maybe a high impact and a hard means of execution. And these are major changes, but with potential for high payment. It's going to take a lot, but you do have a lot of potential there. Low impact, hard execution is difficult changes with little or no potential for payoff. In other words, chances are we're just going to be spinning our wheels, and you're not going to get a lot of buy-in for that. And then you have low impact, easy to execute. These are incremental improvements, small wins. They need to be pursued for the symbolic value of success. Don't give them things that they're going to fail at. Give them little things so that they can win. That'll build up their confidence, that'll build up their motivation, and it'll make them be better equipped to move on to the bigger challenges as you try to finish out your strategy. You can see developing a core competency or accumulating core competencies is essential if you're going to be able to compete and outcompete your rivals. Part of what is the key to being successful in business is to be able to incorporate those core competencies into your strategy. And your strategy should be to try to glean as many core competencies as you can. Well, that's going to do us for this week. We'll see you next week as we finish the last portions of this course. Take care, and we'll see you then.